Hey everybody, Will and Chaska here, and I got to apologize. I had some fun videos for Chaska the Husky, but Chaska here has been placed on a mandatory 10-day quarantine as dictated by animal control. So, a backstory to this, Chaska, back, 9 days now? 9 days now. He was having a seizure event. I thought he was choking. I did the one thing you're never supposed to do, stick your hand inside a dog's mouth. Well, the seizure event took into full swing, and it was a very minor one. It was 30 seconds to a minute, so nothing major. But he bit down on my finger, and the next day I went to a hospital to get that taken care of. Mainly just to get antibiotics in case there was any sort of bacteria lingering. But really, I probably would have been fine. Not advocating that you shouldn't go see a doctor. Go see a doctor if you have an animal bite. Anyways, doctors are required by law to report any animal bite to the animal control or the health department or whatever group is in control of setting up quarantine procedures and dealing with animals. In St. Louis, it's the Department of Health and Senior Services, which is interesting that they've rolled animal control into that, and I understand why. But basically, once he bit me, once that went reported, animal control is supposed to follow up within 24 hours of any reported bite case. Doesn't matter if you go in on a Friday, they're supposed to come out on a Saturday to come follow up and place your animal in quarantine. Now in my case, animal control couldn't be bothered to show up till 8 days after the fact, which causes some major issues, and I'll talk about those in a second. But once animal control comes, they issue an order of quarantine, and you have two options. If they assess that the animal is okay to be in your care, if he has his shots and whatnot, he can have a home quarantine. If there's a little more concern for rabies, maybe he was lost, maybe he was out or got bit by another animal, they will seize your dog, take your dog, and place it into either an animal control facility for the 10-day quarantine period or place him in the care of a vet. And then you are responsible for paying all of those fees that go with it. On top of that, they'll vaccinate your dog for you. And if you have an unneutered or unspayed dog, they'll do that for you too on your dime, just so you're aware of that. So during that quarantine period, you're supposed to call them if anything happens, but really it's dumb. You keep your dog confined either in their cage for 10 days or in a separate room if you have other animals. And from there, you're supposed to make sure that your dog does not have any interactions with other animals during the quarantine period. No cats, no dogs. And if he has to go outside, he has to go out on a leash with an approved handler, which is either yourself, the dog owner, or an animal control officer. On top of that, the dog is not allowed to leave the property. If they find out that the dog has ever left the property, they will come and seize your dog, take it away from you, and put it within a facility to finish out the remainder of the quarantine. If they find out you've transported your dog anywhere outside of your property, which is just your little square area that you own or rent, or however you decide to live in America, they will come and take your dog for the remainder of the quarantine and charge you for that. You can also be slapped with a misdemeanor. Now, a misdemeanor can sometimes be an arrestable offense. Usually it's just a fine. You have to go to court for it. It might go on your record if you're found guilty. This is where it gets concerning in my part. So Chaska, during what was supposed to be his quarantine period, but they couldn't be bothered once again to show up. He went 8 days without being in quarantine. During that time, he had a vet visit to go get his rabies booster shot. According to a document you sign, that's a misdemeanor. So by doing that, even unknowingly doing that, I had committed a crime, essentially. Again, though, I didn't know. They never came to inform me of all of these procedures. So he does that, and now he has to finish out 2 days of home quarantine here at the house, stuck in his fairly spacious crate. Bailey's right there. He's in his crate for solidarity. He can leave anytime. But it's important to know these things when you're dealing with animal control after a dog bite. if your dog ever bites anyone, and this is where it comes to the practical thing, or practical purpose of this video. If your dog ever bites anyone, either yourself or a delivery person, pizza guy, whomever, it's important that you put your dog in quarantine. Put your dog aside in a separate room. Just make sure they're up to date. Make sure you can find all of their vaccination records. Really important to have that information. Once animal control shows up, it's important that you're friendly with them. And a reason I say this is it's very easy to get upset with government officials. But when they first arrive, do not immediately let them in their home. Have them request to come see the dog. So that means they have to come inside. The reason I say this is because they can write you up or cite you for any reason that they see fit. And just like with a police officer, don't immediately invite them in, because anything in plain sight, they can write you up for, which is a little scary when you think about that. On top of that, while your dog is in the quarantine, if you're waiting for animal control to show up, make sure that they're always on a leash when they go outside, and they are not interacting with any animals, and that you do not take them to the vet during this period as well. Once animal control is there, I should also say, make sure that you're recording it. Missouri, thankfully, is a single-party consent state. So that means only I have to consent to recording, and anybody can be featured in that recording. If your state allows this, I highly encourage you to do it, mainly because it is evidence for you if you have to go to court for any reason. Whether the animal control officer was acting outside of their scope of power is the best way to put it, or if anything else happens. Make sure you're recording it. I also downloaded a phone recorder, so it recorded all of my conversations I had with them over the phone. Again, to show and prove that you're trying to make contact with them. Once you have that, animal control officer is here. If they hand you any sort of paper, make sure you read it. And the reason I say that is because the paper I was handed specifically stated that if I agreed to all of these, even after taking Chaska to the vet and they knew about it, that I'd be admitting to a misdemeanor crime. I told them I'm not going to sign it. And then I had them call their supervisor. Never be afraid to have them call their supervisor, get clarification on an issue. The most important thing, though, is that you're not being a jerk. You're not shouting at them. You're not yelling at them. You're being calm. You're helping them out. But at the same time, you need to protect yourself legally. Finally, once they issue the quarantine, make sure you follow it. Really, because there's nothing worse than having your dog taken from you. And I say this because Department of Health and Senior Services, or Animal Control in this case, they can issue what's called an order of quarantine, which means they forcibly come in, remove your dog from your ownership, and put it in the care, and then slap you with a fine that you go to court for, and then also charge you all of the vet fees associated with it. It's also important that while you're monitoring your dog, be truthful. If your dog is acting like it has rabies, don't lie to them about that. But also, you want to make sure, and this is why recording is so important, and taking notes, detailed notes about your dog in quarantine, is because they can also issue what's called an order to euthanize and test and still charge you the fees. So that means they take your lovable furry friend if they kind of suspect that they might have rabies. Again, why it's important that you're not yelling at the animal control officer. You're not getting mad at them, right? Because you make them mad, they might abuse their power and do an order to euthanize. Now, I'm talking like all these people are bad. They're not. They really aren't bad. Animal control officers usually go into this profession because they have a heart for animals and they're going to be advocates for your animal. But if you do anything, just like with anybody in any case, don't make them mad, right? You want them to be on your side. You want them fighting for your animal as well. But it's always important that you maintain a certain level of understanding about all of the legal rules. If your dog bites anyone, I encourage you to research your local county or state rules on dog bites. Most of them are pretty much the same with the mandatory quarantine period. Make sure you locate everything, all of the documents for vaccinations. Most importantly, understand your rights as a citizen. Unfortunately, in terms of dog bite cases, you don't have a lot. Anyways, I hope you found this video informational, helpful for anyone who might be going through this struggle, because it's a very terrifying experience if this is the first time that it's happened to you. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure you like this video. And if you want to get more content from Chaska the Husky, make sure you hit that subscribe and the notification bell. Once Chaska here is better and out of his quarantine, which is in a couple days, we'll be coming back with some actual regular videos. Thanks for watching.